Hi, thank you for tuning in to the Finding Harmony podcast with me, your host, Harmony Slater. The following program contains coarse language and content that some listeners may find offensive. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, I'm so happy you're here and excited to introduce you to our guest today, an incredible woman and yoga teacher who teaches in Madrid, Spain. We're back in Spain, Carmen Yagu. But she has a beautiful yoga school in Madrid where she teaches yoga, and also a podcast, Voices del Yoga, where I was a guest just a few weeks ago. I am really excited as well to be traveling to Madrid and also Barcelona in September. I'll be teaching in Barcelona September 22nd to the 26th. So I would love for you to come. We're going to have a deep Ashtanga yoga immersion. And then I will be headed to Madrid September 27th to October 1st, where two shalas are hosting me. The My Yoga Shala Madrid and also the Ashtanga School Madrid. At the Ashtanga School Madrid, this is Carmen's school, and I would love for you to meet Carmen and hear about her journey, and also come and join me in Spain in September, either in Barcelona or in Madrid. It would be great to have you there. I cannot wait to get back to Madrid. It's such a beautiful city, and I'm excited to see Barcelona. I've never been there. So Carmen herself is a little bit of a rebel. She's never conformed to the way things were supposed to be. She always sort of had a sense that she didn't fit in. And this sense drove her or created a curiosity about art and yoga. And that's what pulled her into this yoga practice. It really helped to open her up. And before that, she felt a little closed off from the world, protecting herself. And so the Ashtanga yoga gave her the structure and the power to practice anywhere in the world. It also gave her the courage and the confidence to take responsibility for her practice. And when she learnt about the Mysore style and committed to a Mysore style practice, it just pulled her in, and she ended up devoting all of her life for the last several years to learning from great teachers like Shelley Washington, David Swenson, Tim Miller, Santina Jardina, who's a good friend of ours. All of these people, well, except for Tim Miller, Shelley Washington, David Swenson, Santina, you can find in episodes on our podcast if you'd like to hear from them. They are all here in the podcast archives. And she also traveled to India and became an authorized Ashtanga yoga teacher with Sharat Joyce, practicing many years in Mysore, diving into that entire experience. She felt like that these extremely lengthy practices were really creating some difficulties in her life. They were, quite tiring, and they were not really nourishing her. And so that's what we're exploring, is how her approach to practice has changed, how the practice now is really connecting her more deeply within, and how she's using the asana practice in a more supportive, nourishing way so that she can listen more deeply and connect with her intuition and honor her needs and practice maybe in a little bit more feminine way, a little more gentle way, in a way that helps to create more clarity through the mind and the body. So I am thrilled and excited to introduce you here to Carmen. I hope that you'll come and seek me out while I'm in Spain in September, and then you can meet Carmen in person. And I look forward to sharing this episode with you. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I'm here with Russell K.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And Carmen Yagüe. Hello,
Yagüe.
Carmen.
Yagüe. Hi,
Yagüe.
Harmony. Also, thank you for having me.
Long, long time no see.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, I think the last time we saw each other, or at least for me, we were in Madrid, and I was getting kicked out of restaurants for sitting cross-legged with no shoes.
Oh,
It's not allowed in Madrid, evidently.
I do it all the time. Where do you go?
No, I was asked. We went to fancy places, and we were asked to leave, and it was not nice. It's like you cannot sit like that. We have enough issues here. Mm.
That never happened to me in Madrid.
Never happened.
No, never. But
Yeah.
I got kicked out from a restaurant in Malta once. I can't,
Malta.
Malta.
yeah,
Well,
in
that's a
Malta.
fancy place, Malta. Yeah.
Well, medium
Why
fancy.
did they kick you out?
Can't remember. Uh, I think I wanted to sit on the shade. It was like
Uh-huh.
it was very absurd. I wanted to sit on the shade, and so I moved the table a little, and the guy was
Oh.
outraged because I had moved the table
Yeah, yeah.
centimeters,
Yeah, yeah. That's not your table. 2 meters.
like 2 centimeters, like a little bit. I don't
Oh,
know.
centimeters.
Not two
Like a
Centimeters.
foot.
No,
more, just
centimeters is this centimeters is very small.
make
Yeah.
it 15 centimeters. So he
15 centimeters. Oh dear.
was very
Mm,
upset, and then I gave him a horrible look. That's true because he was screaming
mm.
at me, and I gave him a horrible look,
Really?
Yeah.
and he told me go.
Out.
Okay. I had never been kicked out from a restaurant. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
Have you ever kicked someone out of your yoga room?
Not yet. Not yet.
Oh, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling when you point to the door and you say out. I have done that many times actually, but only in
England.
England. Yeah. They're the worst, actually. But someone was just refusing to do the vinyasas
They
properly.
just weren't intimidated by you, so
The English?
yeah.
Oh, but they did once I started screaming,
What's
out. I said,
You were like the yoga police, the yoga Nazis.
the Brighton could use like a Nazi incursion. Like, what do they call that? The Luftwaffe and the Blitzkrieg. They could use more of that.
I don't think so.
I think they didn't
It's a
do
very
enough.
nice place.
They didn't do enough there, I think.
What are the students like in Spain, Carmen? you run a Mysore program in Madrid. I feel like Spain is the new, like Spain and Portugal are taking over the Ashtanga yoga world.
Mm.
There's so many teachers and so many students and so many places.
It's funny you're saying that because I was having a conversation not too long ago with a friend, and I was telling her this is like the new Ashtanga Mecca.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Used to be Tokyo, but now Madrid.
It's like Spain as a whole and Portugal.
Ho Young used to teach there in Madrid. Yeah, or was that Barcelona?
No, Barcelona.
Who's that?
And she was like the only one. I think it was Barcelona, but maybe it was Madrid.
Maybe Nick was in
Ho
Madrid.
Young? Do you remember Ho Young or no Ho Young? She was like the first one before there was any Ashtanga. There was like no Ashtanga in Spain.
A Korean Dutch American that was teaching Ashtanga yoga 20 years ago in Madrid. No, Barcelona.
Yeah, like in the early 2000s. I think she
Hmm.
opened her school in 2003, maybe.
Looking at the behind you.
Oh, we have two dogs.
Audience. Yeah.
She doesn't like it when I lick her nose. She hates it. But she licks my face all the time. It's really a hypocrisy on her part.
So what are the students like there? What is it about Ashtanga yoga that attracts so many students and people?
Why aren't you kicking them out?
No, I don't kick people out yet. I haven't kicked any yet. I don't know if this will change, but actually I started teaching in London, and when I moved to Madrid, there was a bit of a cultural clash for me because in the UK, in the UK, people, you just show up in class and you do your thing, and if you're teaching, maybe it's like a little small talk, like a little thing, and then everyone does what they're supposed to do. It's way more social. And I moved back here after having lived abroad for a few years in Ireland and in the UK. And so I came, and I was not in the Spanish mindset at all.
Right.
Like shake people's hand. Oh, look at me. Like, well, this a business meeting? Just give me a freaking kiss. Like, I don't want to kiss. I'm not used to it anymore, you know. So the social convention is very different, and also like how you connect with people and how you are supposed to be, it's just different. So I think it was a little odd first 2-3 years.
It's
a little,
it took you some time to readjust.
It's a little awkward myself, like in this class. Like kissing people, like I don't know. At 6 in the morning, it's like, oh, I don't really feel like talking right now, but
right.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Growing up in the Midwest, in Illinois, we're not allowed to touch the opposite gender.
Oh my God.
And then when I moved to New Orleans, like everyone is kissing and hugging, and it was peculiar for sure. And you kind of try and get into the vibe. And when I moved to New York, everybody had like picked that up. And so all the girls in the shalas in New York were kissing me after class. And I was told to knock it off.
Knock it off.
You know, stop it. And I was like, oh, I thought that was cool.
It's funny how like cultural norms sort of shift with the weather. Like it's very cold up north and people are more like to themselves, and then down south it's more warm and people are a little more like open and expressive and
kissy.
I'm not sure about why the kissing thing, north south. Friend of mine, I'm really not sure. I'm gonna think about it. But a friend of mine told me a very interesting theory that has to do with economy and with the ability to plan. And I think he has a good point. In the south, if it's hot, you don't need to plan ahead. You don't have like a cold winter coming, snowstorm. So you can get food now or tomorrow or in 1 week. Makes no difference. But if you're up north and the storm is coming, you really need to plan and you really need to be on top of things. And that, I think, keeps your brain.
6 weeks without food changes things in a hurry.
Like that pepper you ate.
The pepper. Yes, peppers. You don't want to eat again right away.
So even though you grew up in Madrid, this was not the place that you started practicing yoga, or was it?
I started practicing. No, I actually started in Madrid. I started, my class was 2004. It was a Shiva yoga class, and I went because of mine told me that it was cool. So I showed up with another friend. I was bored to my head, if I'm honest. I was very bored because I was like, I liked movement. I liked action, and I didn't find that much action. I was in my early 20s, and I was very restless. And so I was bored, but I was polite. So I stayed and I did as I was told. And then with my friend, we went to the final relaxation and he started snoring. So it was like, I was elbowing him, like, you're embarrassing me. Like snoring so loud.
He's tired.
I didn't come back. I think I decided not to come back, and they will not allow him to come back because of the snore. He was kicked out, actually, Russell.
Good. I like to hear about that. That's good.
But then I started doing I used to swim a lot, and I used to run, go to the gym, do some weights. I always been into physical activity and action.
Yeah.
And then I started looking for some form of yoga that would be a little more powerful, and found it.
And so where did you find Ashtanga yoga in Madrid at that time, or did you find it later on?
I started in Madrid. It was Ashtanga yoga, but I didn't know
Yeah.
it was
Ah,
some form. They called it power yoga, but it was the
yeah.
Ashtanga. It was the first series, and we did what we could. It was taught like, you follow along. What you can do, you do. What you cannot do, well, come back tomorrow and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I liked it, and I liked all the tatvaris. I felt so like all my body was shaken, and so I realized as strong as I thought I was, and that also like the feelings of my own body and my own mind, something shifted inside. And that encouraged me to keep going. And then I continued practicing when I moved to Dublin. This was in 2010.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did in Dublin. And then I moved to London. And that's when I went really hardcore, really militant.
Yeah. So were you at a school in Dublin, or were you just practicing on your own? Did you have a teacher there?
There was a teacher. There was a lady that had trained with Paul Dallaghan, and I started doing lead classes. I was one of those students that refused to do Mysore, and I didn't want to do Mysore. I didn't see why I would show up and do self-practice, so I wanted to be led, guided. But then something interesting started to happen. I was working in sales back then. Well, actually, business development for an international company that was based in. And I started to wake up like 20 minutes early. I bought this book by David Swanson, the yoga practice, where you have the short forms. And so I started 15 minutes. And I went to the office. I had so much energy, and I was literally smashing my numbers. I was like, all sales targets there. I was killing it. And so I started to wake up earlier. Like he had this like 30-minute short forms. I started like half an hour, then 45 minutes. And then I started to teach myself like full primary, which I had done already, but I started to do that. And then eventually I went to Mysore to a Mysore class, just to get things a little more coherent.
And that was all in, was that all in Dublin that was going on? Yeah. And then you moved to London.
Because she was promoted based on the numbers.
Yeah, I actually was. I was promoted, and I was moved back in Dublin. I was working for the Spanish market, and based in Dublin for EU taxes and stuff. And then I was promoted I applied for a role in the UK market. They gave it to me, and so I was in London.
Amazing. And so then you were totally sold on this yoga thing. Because you got a promotion.
Yeah, as long as you're been promoted to London, you might as well keep up the yoga.
Yeah, actually, I was working in the Heron Tower, which is it was like kind of like in London. I kind of fulfilled my dream, my teenage dream. That was working. Where it is a stupid dream, but that's the one I had. It's just working in a skyscraper. I just like high rise. I used to love them. So in London, I had it.
Were you at Hamish's? Where were you practicing?
I practiced and assisted with Adam Keane for a long time.
Oh, right. Yeah. Great friend of the show, Adam Keane.
Yeah.
And I see that, like Adam, you started your own podcast. That's good. That's
Yeah.
parampara is what that is. Yeah.
Parampara. The Spanish, it's only in Spanish though, right?
No. The
It's
podcast?
in English and Spanish. Yeah.
Everything.
Oh,
That's
everything.
everything I speak.
Amazing.
You have a kind of beautifully modulated voice for the radio. Did you work at that? Was that something a part of your work to have voice training?
I was cold calling for some time. So
Yeah.
just call someone that doesn't want to receive your call with a crappy voice. They're gonna hang up on you.
Yeah, right away.
You better work on that.
Yeah, calm, confident, centered. I'm here. Yeah.
When I was cold calling, and it's super hard. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. So we got great training. And at first I sucked. I was horrible. It's so bad. Like the first 2-3 weeks, everyone will hang up on me. But then I started to get better, and I got people talking, and I was so nervous that I hung up myself. Like, oh my god, I'm having a conversation.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you finally get somebody, and then you have no idea what to do or say, and they ask you things, and you're like, I don't think I know the answer to this now.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about technology. I'm not an engineer, and I was selling technology. I was
oh dear.
and CFOs and CIOs and all this C-level people that do a lot, and I was like, they're like, well, getting information in the end. That's what you need to do in sales. You don't need to know much as you need to learn how to ask the right questions. That's the most important. And listen. You don't have to talk.
Yeah.
My very first job, I was 16, and I sold Ideals Publishing books, which were like picture books to grannies and nans. And I had to call them, and I had to repeat the script exactly. And I remember I would wake up in panic attacks. My mom would kind of shift me awake, and I would wake up with a fright. I was so frightened and anxious about selling these books to grannies. It couldn't have been more freaked out.
It is hard though.
It is difficult to call a stranger, is what so I especially I hate making eye contact and going outside and talking to people. I think I might be autistic. I'm not sure, but it's horrifying for me to interact with other human beings.
What's the script that you had to read? Can you remember? I'm curious.
What's the script? That was, I'm not 19. That's not 3 years ago. That is 30 years ago. Okay. I don't even think you're 30 years old. Are you 30?
I'm 40. I'm going to turn 42.
I have suits older than 42.
He's teasing you. All right, let's get back to the story.
So you have a wonderful voice, you're great training, you're jazzed by your yoga practice, and you were lit up, electric. First thing, 8 o'clock in the morning. He was like, this lady must be Russian. She's amazing. And then just a fantastic, Spanish, Caucasian, I don't know what these Russians are called, but a tech salesperson is working with Adam Keen. It must be very enthused with your work that you're doing for him. And you gave up all of this to do the yoga?
Yeah.
Oh.
What made you dive in head first to teaching, practicing, starting your own shala?
Well, when I moved to London, I worked for an American team, and I had my manager. He was from Georgia, and he was very laid back. He was a very nice guy, very, very hard working.
Tbilisi. Tbilisi.
What does that mean?
No, he must be like the other Georgia. Sorry.
What? I don't understand what that means.
Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia.
Like the country?
Yes.
Yeah, but she's working for an American company.
You guys are going to have to be a little quicker to keep up with these jokes.
It was so out of context.
It's at the capital of Georgia.
Not that Georgia, Georgia the state, right?
Georgia the state.
Yeah, he was that one. Yeah, so he was from that place, and he was very laid back, and so I had a lot of freedom, and I like that. But then I got another manager. She was after a promotion, and she was on top of us, 94/7.
And she wasn't from Georgia, I imagine. No, she was from a northern country.
A northern state.
A northern state.
No, she was from Ireland, actually.
Much more north.
Much more north.
Half Irish, half somewhere in Africa. I can't remember the country. But yeah, she was like on top of us. And I started, the yoga gave me this kick at the sales career to really perform, because I had so much energy that I didn't know what to do with it. So I would just call clients and go to meetings. But then when things settled, I started to move towards the opposite side of the spectrum. And we would have these forecast calls every Monday morning just to see how we were doing with our deals and our pipeline, all these things that you need to have very clear in your mind when you're working in sales. And I was thinking like, I don't care. You talk to the person who's going to sign the contract. It's like, no. Did you ask this question? No. And if this person doesn't show up, do you know who would sign the contract? Is that no? It was like, I was not there anymore. I'm interested. And so I thought that I should leave with dignity.
Yeah.
Because my numbers were starting to like, not be
because
so.
People are starting to document your performance, and so it's better sometimes to step out by yourself.
Pride left.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I did.
That's interesting. There's a rap mogul, Russell Simmons, and he did his first transcendental meditation class, and they did some asana, and he said he came up and out of the relaxation, and he said, this is going to cost me a lot of money.
That's a
because he could feel
because
like
he felt like that panic, that need, that drive to make money.
Yeah.
He felt that go away.
Yeah.
And so he was much more relaxed and confident in himself. And it's like, I'm not going to make as much money without that pain inside me.
That's so true. It's actually spot on. You need to be hungry for making money when you're in sales. You need that hunger. And I didn't have it anymore. Gone. And also all this, like being so thorough about everything, having everything controlled. I thought it was delusional. You can't have everything controlled. So my forecast calls, they were a failure. I mean, I got not yelled at, because people will not yell at me, but I would be reprimanded. Like, you need to
reprimanded.
get this clear. And inside of me, I was like, screw that. I don't want to get this clear. I just want to get out of here. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's fascinating, because there's such a beautiful paradox there, that initially the yoga is motivating and giving you this kind of kundalini pranic energy, and then it fully blooms and you lose your sense of concern, and then the work then suffers. That's a fine balance.
Yeah. Well, I think that I was telling a friend the other day, I would think that the way you change is from one extreme to the other. And then at some point, the pendulum swings to the middle. But the easiest change is going from 0 to 100. Then the hard thing is finding that 50-ish, that middle path. That's the hard one. But swinging, super easy. So that's
because the problem's still there in a way, or it's a new problem maybe when you take that swing from, where you're like making the money and you're feeling good and and then you lose that interest and you feel like satisfied and content and, and then you move into a yoga field. You still have to like feed yourself and pay your rent. And if you have a family, pay for your kids' food and your kids' activities and schooling and all the things, right? And so you can't just sort of like sit there content unless you happen to have a trust fund or $1 million savings account.
That's helpful.
Right? You still have to then figure out how to create livelihood.
I left sales with money, not a ton of money, but I left with some money. And then I started taking some classes and then, there's one of these unicorn companies that is called WeWork. They were becoming established in London back then. And I was following my sales instinct and I established a yoga program for every building in WeWork. So they actually
amazing. That's a synchronicity of culture. That's nice.
But it is true that I left sales in 2015. That's 8 years ago. And I'm still caught up in some of my old life's mindset. 8 years later, I haven't done nothing of it. It's so deeply ingrained. I'm still caught up in like the ideas of productivity, like being productive. If I'm not doing something, I'm wasting my life away. This kind of things is still like lurking in the shadows of my mind. And they push me to make the wrong calls. Doing things recent.
It's interesting because your mom was very much the same. Your mother is an entrepreneur. She was a fashion designer. She was into, I think she had a bridal farm. I'm sorry, it says bridal firm. So she didn't grow brides, but she was still a lot of production there. So it's interesting, like maybe there's like a very big piece of you that's like your mom, that you feel maybe it needs to manifest itself, it needs to operate, but maybe sometimes you don't. Are you in conflict, I think is my question.
In conflict internally. Inner conflict like everyone else. I can see things of my mom in me, especially the looks. And character is my dad.
What did your dad do?
Well, he passed 5 years ago, but he was an interior designer and he was also an entrepreneur. So the entrepreneurial one was my dad. He would just take risks and he's very like, actually he went bankrupt 2 or 3 times in his life. And
oh my gosh,
that's a good experience to have.
Yeah, he went like, actually, it's actually very humbling. I can imagine. Because from having a lot of, if you're in business and if you make money, if the business goes well, you make a lot of money. If it doesn't go well, you're broke. So he experienced from being like in fancy parties on New Year's Eve to not having money even to buy the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So imagine like the psychological process of that.
Yeah. I can. I mean, my mother is an entrepreneur, and so, you know, she's gone from being on the Johnny Carson show, selling her product, to working at a factory, to having her own business, to being bankrupt, to having a very successful business that employed her entire family. So it's like those ups and downs to me are synonymous with sales. To me, sales is how to be, like you said, this middle path while you have the ups and then the extreme lows, and you're just trying to maintain, you know, the tack in the wind, because it's so like the back and forths are so violent.
That's very true. And those are things that I learned, especially ever since I run the Shala, and that I opened. Because when you run a program for someone else, you still have safety. I mean, there are things that eventually I think you want to do your own thing, but you still have that safety net, or that feeling of safety, like I'm going to get paid, whether 5 people come through the door, it's 25. I'm going to get paid. More or less have it covered. But when it's your Shala, it's like, you really you need to be on top of things, especially on top of yourself as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of yoga practitioners, you know, turning yoga teachers don't really think about, which is that when you step into that role of a yoga teacher, I mean, from a student perspective, it seems really maybe glamorous or like your ideal job. Oh, I just get to practice yoga and do yoga all the time. And, you know, I get to help people, and
it's incredibly stressful.
But you don't realize that you actually, when you take on your own program or run your own school, you are an entrepreneur, and
you're a small business
actually
owner.
Sales are very important.
Yes.
To keep the doors open.
100% a small business.
And people don't just walk through the doors. You know, you have to think of ways to tell people about what you're doing.
They told us, just put a sign up, do not market, do not advertise, and they will just come.
Yeah, but
and it's such really bullshit. And meanwhile, they're so heavily promoting their own tours.
Yeah.
It's like, it's another hypocrisy is what it is.
But it is shocking, right? And it is a heavy weight and a heavy burden to carry, that like, oh, I actually have to learn something about running a business now.
And I got into the yoga to get away from that.
Good. Yeah. Sometimes I think what I used to make in sales and what I make now, and it's like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh man.
So have you found the balance? Are you finding the balance between the two?
Sales and yoga, or
yeah, or just like the business aspect of yoga versus like the teaching aspects. I feel it's like the two sides of our brain almost, right? Like one's very right brain and one's very left brain.
But there's also like the experiential aspect of getting deeper into your yoga.
Oh yeah, that's like, I don't know. That's a different thing altogether.
Not much time for that between those two.
I think if I found the balance, you just do trial and error. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. If someone would have told me what opening a shala meant, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I'm glad that no one told me, because then I have the direct. It's made me strong. Yeah, stronger, definitely. Especially,
just that's what this podcast is for, is to reach out to young women who are thinking about opening a shala and like, waggy finger.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found more challenging, or maybe the most challenging thing for me, well, it's been two. The first one, how do you keep boundaries? I think in Saxon countries, that's way more natural. It's way more in people's minds, like keeping my boundaries. And whereas here in Spain, it's like, it's a part, it's a more part.
Right.
So I found coming from this kind of countries and having lived there for a few years and not having spoken Spanish in like years, really.
Yeah.
Here and thinking of boundaries and looking at people, looking at you like, what's wrong with you? You're such a weird dog. That I struggle. And then I also struggle with when people leave, when students leave. At first, like really personal, like it broke my heart. It literally broke my heart, and I thought, going like that.
I know that feeling.
Yeah,
it's heartbreaking when a student leaves, because it's also it's like your livelihood. At the same time, it's like this is a person you've spent time with every day for 6 months, or 6 years, like developing them and then like, oh, I guess you just broke up with me. Okay.
Yeah. It feels like that.
Yeah. And so that's been one of the hardest. And what I'm going to say, it's the real thing that I really feel I'm grateful for those experiences, because they have shown me parts of myself that are broken and that are wounded. All this kind of like abandonment issues that you realize that you actually have when a student leaves. It's like, okay, people have their own life. You have to but to some extent it happens to everyone. And if you're not, when you run your own gig, I think it's even more evident, because then the financial aspect comes into play as well.
It's like double the pain.
It actually teaches you a lot. It teaches you a lot about yourself, especially. It's crazy.
Yeah, definitely.
That's interesting, because that's also you mentioned this in your biography, how these kinds of this kind of this drama was there at the opening of your shala. And I wonder if you could talk about that, because it's said when you first started your shala, you said you saw your whole life collapsing. And it's a funny thing to say, right, when you're giving birth to this new venture, is that everything is kind of retracting at the same time. It sounds like a lot happened in a short time, and I wonder what you feel comfortable talking about.
Oh yeah. So I was actually the day after the new year of 2018, I was in Santosha in Mysore, and I got a WhatsApp call from my fiance, and he told me that either I stopped going to Mysore or we were through. It was over. And he was like, excuse me, Happy New Year.
He didn't know that you were in Mysore at the time?
No, he knew, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so that caught me by surprise, because I didn't see it coming. And I was there like my, my whatever I was eating, my omelette with. And I was really, like, someone was breaking up with me or giving me an ultimatum over WhatsApp. And that got me thinking, like, how much should I compromise for someone that I'm supposed to marry? Should I compromise in who I am? So this is because I was going back and forth in my mind, and my rational mind said, well, if he's not happy with you coming to Mysore, maybe you can come every other year, or you can space it out, or it's part of the relationship. But then I was waiting at the foyer at the institute, waiting to practice with Sharat. And I was looking into the room and I thought, I cannot give this up. I don't want to give it up.
Mm.
I want to give it up. Maybe in the future I will decide myself to give it up, but it's not the time for me. I want to keep coming. I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him, and it was over. It was no more for me. It was over, and I said, okay, fine. Then my dad, 3 months, no, a month later or so, my dad went to hospital, and he ended up passing. And then 3 months later, my grandmother passed. She raised me when I was a kid. And my mom, she just collapsed. She had a nervous breakdown. She had a meltdown. And so I had no fiance. Because I was thinking of like, we were thinking of marriage and having a family, and then that's taken away from you. So that's very disturbing, really. No wife, no father, no grandmother. And my mom was in bed. She was in bed for that was actually the worst of all of it. It was seeing my mom in bed like that.
Yeah.
And actually I was already running a Mysore program, no in my own school, but for someone else, but I was there Monday through Friday. And the yoga, like having to be so focused and so present during the hours of the program, it really helped me to get out of the drama, and maybe also to avoid it. That makes sense, because I had to deal with all those things happening like bit by bit, really, not at the same time, not possible. But the yoga helped. Then I was doing Kapotasana. I wanted to freaking die because all my back was like. That actually took me like 4 years to undo, all the trauma. Yeah. But then eventually my mom got better, and she found, I told her, I think I want to just open my own place and do this, but for myself. And she was feeling better, and she found a place. And she found it like in the 8th of May, and I was signing the lease on May 15th. So it was like everything super fast. And I showed up there. I was still pretty broken. But people will not notice, because I think I'm a good actress as well. They say, I forgot the name in English. I'm very like poised. I can be very
poised.
Very poised. So people will not notice. They would just think that I was a little cold. But well, I was really, I was in so much pain. Well, I worked, and the place carried on, and I continued developing. I learned a lot about myself, and here I am.
Beautiful. And are you still going back to Mysore? Did you carry on after that?
I did carried on, but then I had to stop because of COVID, and I can't wait to, because I couldn't make it last year, unfortunately. I really I like things. I like practicing there.
It's interesting, because we're kind of these little podcasts. They kind of really try and get to the heart of why people make the decisions that they do, and how those decisions then and preferences then inform the body they have, the life they have, the personality they have. And it just kind of, especially when hundreds of them play one after the other, you sort of start to kind of see how very unique people are. And I can see that poise in you, that, you have a quality of just watching me make a fool of myself, and just sort of, that's funny at times. And it's interesting. It's interesting to see. And I'm interested also, maybe you could speak more about what the practice, when you came to the practice, what you found you were good at, because that really kind of speaks to who you are and what your preferences are. Like, some people are forward benders or back benders. I'm a hip swiveler. Some people are strength people, and you see that kind of that tension in them gives them advantages, but also enormous disadvantages. What did you find you were good at and bad at in this practice?
I started to do it, and I was a little clueless. I could move, so I suppose I was mobile. But then people used to tell me that I had a beautiful practice. I started to get that kind of remark. Oh, yes, it's beautiful. Oh, are you a dancer? Oh, are you a dancer? People think that I'm a dancer.
Yeah, you have that quality about you, actually.
Yeah.
It's the poise.
Just in the way that you hold your head, you can see that. Are you a dancer?
No, she said no.
I did some ballet when I was a kid, and I was really bad at it. And then I did pole dance for 3 years. I did that.
Ah, good. Yeah, for money. Yeah.
You don't need to be too poised for that. Yeah, it can be.
No.
But yeah, the mobility, and it came easy, and also just being calm in the movements and trying to. I think, that same poise in the practice, kind of like rhythm. It's something that I really like. Steady.
That's interesting. Sometimes when you see people who are mobile, it's like I think in anatomy they say physiological laxity. Sometimes it's the hypermobility. It needs awareness to kind of bring the whole thing back together so it doesn't collapse or fall apart in the easy places. Do you ever find that for you?
No, I never had problems with that. I only, with my knee, I injured my knee because I was silly and ignorant. I didn't know better, and the teacher that I was with didn't know better either. So it was like Dumb and Dumber coming together.
Yeah. No. What happened in Ekapada?
Varanchiasana?
No, it was Marichasana. The first 2 years of practice, I went on a plane. I landed. I went to yoga, and I went to the class. The class had started, so I skipped sun salutations. I was coming from a plane, and I was so eager to practice that I started with seated. And then in Marichasana, I really wanted to do it the way I always did it, and I actually my knee. Found it. He was in pain, and so I told the teacher. Kind of ignored me. I think he didn't know.
Yeah.
We were just
too green.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah. I don't mean Irish. I mean too young.
In Irish?
Green.
When you I said too green and young, like a greenhorn deer. And I thought, no, I don't mean to confuse anyone. Not like the Irish green, but like a young buck.
What about your back in Kapotasana, though? What happened there? You said it took 4 years to rehabilitate.
Tense. She was very tense.
No, it sounds like there was actual very serious pain and trauma caused.
Tension, stress.
Well, when I was, they left me on WhatsApp, and I was so angry, and so I could not believe it that would happen. The person that you trust is betraying you. And
on WhatsApp of all the apps.
Doing your omelette and smoothie at Santosha's. How dare you? And so everything was like literally my lower back. It's a little mobile. It stopped being mobile. It was not mobile. Pain, neck and shoulder pain for the first 2 years were hard. They were really hard. About just entering the spine. and
Yeah.
all density around it. I'm serious.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like stress and tension to me.
Yeah. Did you at the time kind of, were you able to draw that line between, I had this very emotional event happen, and then did you know right away, like, oh, my body is kind of shutting down right now. I'm like feeling a lot of tightness or closeness.
Protective.
Yeah, protection. Were you able to draw that sort of line right away, or was that like on reflection?
Yeah, it was a little later. At first, I was just practicing out of willpower. I think the Ashtanga can be militant, and I was definitely very militant. I still am, but in a different way, luckily.
Yeah.
But at first, I was like, just do it, and I do it. And I had good technique. My teacher in London, he had really good technique. And so the technique, I didn't touch my back. And so I thank him for that. But still, the pain was there. Even though I was practicing, the pain was there. And I actually started to realize that, that I'm feel blocked inside. Like, I'm doing this thing, and I was like practicing early morning before going to teach, like waking up at 3 a.m. I also sought refuge in the practice, which I think it's very human. We are, and you just hold on. And what you have is the practice, and then you just hold on tightly, and then just closing your eyes really tightly on it. Point, if the practice is doing what it's supposed to do, your inner intelligence, it has to awaken, say, hey, what are you doing? Hello. And that's what happened to me. And I started to develop a more organic relationship with the practice. And firstly with myself, I started to see it as a tool that was available for me to develop awareness in the body and in the mind, and just grow as a person in a way that still is pretty mysterious to me. That's still a mystery. I don't understand really like how yoga exactly works, but it works. At least even though I cannot put a finger on it. But I stopped being so blinded because of this event and started to develop like a communion with the practice, something that I could feel mine, that was coming from my heart in a way, from my soul, actually, more than just my mind telling me you have to do this 6 days a week and the whole thing every day, no matter how you feel.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Great.
And how, and now do you feel like 100%?
My back?
Yeah, your whole practice, everything.
Your knee, your back, the whole body.
Actually, my back released completely last summer. So it was not until last summer.
Wonderful.
Completely. So it's been like nearly 5 years.
Wow.
Practice is good because I am wiser.
Yeah.
I'm definitely wiser. I think to do this practice, at first you're dumb because you don't know. You just massage your knee, which I did. You just you go through different phases.
Yeah.
But hopefully you become wiser, not only because of practice, but because of life. The idea of the guru, how the guru is your reality, all the things that happen in your life, things that come up, the things that stay, the things that vanish. That's the guru. That's where you can learn a lot if you're open to learning and it's the gateway to wisdom, to have this and the inner wisdom then to be awakened in a way. And I don't mean this in, I don't want to sound very woo-woo or anything. I'm quite practical, quite pragmatic. But it is true. I mean, I think there is wisdom in us. There's wisdom in our body if we listen. But the thing is that we don't listen. We are like so stuck in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's very nice to hear. I rarely people refer to the guru as coming from the listening to the inner self. And it's something that you hear that the Upanishads talk about, that the true guru is the Sushumna, the canal of our spine, and the Ida and the Pingala. And so you're observing what's happening to the rising and falling action of the gunas. And this is the guru. And it's such a very profound way to think about looking at a teacher and looking at a teacher's guidance, because you're ultimately your own guru. And there's so much less dependence on another personality that inevitably has their own motives. And so it's that's a rare thing to hear. And I wonder, I remember first hearing that from Richard Freeman. I wonder, where did you think that you picked that up?
You hear people saying that. I mean, you open Instagram and everyone is like, oh, tree.
Yeah. You can pick that up on Instagram. That's right.
No. Actually, it has to come from you. To talk about of authority and credibility come from you, and I think it comes through pain and suffering.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of a terrible truth, but it's those moments of suffering that really are the ones that are there for our growth, right? It's like that pain or that suffering or that obstacle. Like the obstacle isn't in the way, the obstacle is the way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And like when we can like really embrace that.
The whole purpose of a yoga practice is to put you in an uncomfortable position that is difficult. And then you have an emotional response that you then observe and manage. And it's not actually
or welcome
the posture.
Yeah, you need to welcome it.
Yeah.
You need to integrate it into your nervous system.
Some people get that in the first sun salutation, and some unlucky people get that in fourth series. It's very unlucky if you first encounter sensation in fourth series. That's a problem.
I agree. Sometimes I think I'm really underdeveloped because of that, because I need to do all this stuff so often to get that sense, because people, I'm sure there's someone on the planet that just sits down looking at the empty wall and just gets it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm
this is hard. This empty wall is hard.
Myself. Yeah. I had to smash.
I think
go through heartbreak.
Yeah, I just smashed.
Yeah.
I think I've thought a lot about this, and I, even if you can sit down and look at the empty wall and like get it, life's still gonna happen. Right?
Hopefully for not for very much longer.
Stop it. And so you're still gonna come up, because like we don't live in a vacuum and we don't live in a cave, and we have to create livelihood for ourselves and our families, and there's other people in the universe. And
we
so
have dogs now.
Life still is gonna happen. And so you might understand that in that isolated incident, but then life's going to give you all kinds of interesting input and obstacles, and even good things can be obstacles, right? Even
Yeah.
emotions of bliss is an obstacle because
Yeah.
we get attached to it and we want it. And so it's very interesting because even if you have it, I think you're still going to have to go through life and keep picking it back up again, or keep finding it in different situations and scenarios.
I remember this is so interesting. I remember I was doing conference once, giving a conference, and we were talking about equanimity. Someone asked and said, the highs are not so high and the lows are not that low. And the student replied, does it mean that I'm not going to be happy ever again? I didn't know what to answer. Like, I don't know what to answer. Does it mean that if I'm more equanimous, I'm not going to be happy ever again? It's like, shit, that's a great question. Because we want that.
A lot of manic depressives go off their meds for the same reason. It's like, this equanimity sucks.
But I don't think that's equanimity. I think that's I think that's actually very interesting. And I think this question is wonderful because it's not, being equanimous isn't about just like numbing the highs and the lows. Right. And that's like what your medication does, or it's also like what we do. That's when we self-medicate, right? We're like numbing the sensations that we're not wanting to like go into or feel, whether it's pain or boredom or, we want excitement or we don't want to feel sadness or whatever it is, right? We have all kinds of different ways that we do this, and everyone does it in many different forms.
For example, I refused to watch the NBA playoffs last night because I didn't want to feel the heartbreak of my team losing, but I was like very interested still.
Right. And so to me, the equanimity is because we're human and we're having a human experience, and the emotions are chemical, right? Yeah. We can't avoid them. Emotions, and we're not to avoid them.
Yeah.
We're going to feel them. But it's to feel it. And again, it's that ability to welcome. Can you welcome the high and not be sad when you're no longer feeling it, or continue to seek out that sensation over and over again? Can you not want to numb out the sadness or the fear or the frustration, but go into it and be with it and feel it, like really feel it, right? And that's like what Marichiasana D teaches you. Like nobody who's starting yoga practice wants to do Marichiasana D. It feels terrible, right?
Not as bad as Varanchiasana B,
or Kapochasana or whatever your pain point is, right? But can you go in there and feel it and be with it and and then release, right? Release. And then keep stay steady through that process, through the experience of the highs and the experience of the lows.
So last
and not
night,
wish it to be different.
So like last night, I'm like, finally when the Warriors were up by 30, I turned the game on to watch it, but I'd already missed the sweetness of them going up by 30.
That's right.
But I was spiritually bypassing the possibility
of heartbreak
that they might be down and lose. And so I missed everything.
Yeah. But it's a great question. It's the same, like someone in a workshop once, I don't know, it might have been in Madrid, I'm not sure. But someone said, I feel like since I started yoga, I have no ambition for my job anymore. Like,
she just said that.
No, like the same things that used to give me pleasure in my job, I'm not interested in, but like, I still have to work and make money.
But maybe she told us that in Madrid.
No, it was someone else who was like, actually, she wasn't in her job anymore. She was working. I mean, teaching yoga. And it's the thing, like, can you still allow yourself to have goals and to have aspirations, right?
To feel.
Yeah. And I mean, it might change a little bit for sure because you're feeling more content internally, but like to still feel motivated to grow and expand in life.
Well, Krishna tells us to do this, to pursue.
Sometimes I think the yoga practice is used as a numbing
spiritual
tool
bypassing.
rather than a feeling tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually about feeling. I remember a friend of mine said something really interesting. It was like people come to yoga to feel better, and then they're more aware. 3-4 months, you're just more aware, and you're actually.
You feel worse.
But it's no, you don't feel worse. You actually do feel more intensely.
Yeah, you start feeling more.
You feel you're better at feeling. You're feeling better. It's true.
Yeah. You're better at feeling.
Yeah, you're better at feeling. Yeah. It's like this. I can't sit down in chairs anymore. It really hurts.
You get kicked out from restaurants in Madrid. That's funny.
You get kicked out of restaurants. That's feeling better. Yeah. I'm aware that I should be sitting in lotus with a straight spine, and then they're kicking me out of the restaurant because I feel better.
They didn't want you to take your shoes off.
Oh, I clean my socks every day. It was inexcusable.
But it is a process. I think, like you say, it's an unfolding, and there is definitely a path that as a practitioner you kind of go on, right? And you're gonna come up against all these things over and over and over again in different ways.
It's horrific.
I think the practice helps you to live. It's a tool to how to live, to teach you how to live. And if it's not teaching you that, if you're not becoming better at feeling, at living, then you have to review your practice. Then you really have to reconsider what you're doing. And at least, I mean, life is gonna suck many times. Everyone's gonna die. You are gonna die. Sometimes in some conference, I tell these two students, it's like, I'm sorry to cheer you up, guys, but it is not a secret. Everyone knows that you're going to die. I mean, who thinks that it's ever, even though we think, no, that's never going to happen to me until it happens, you know? And so you're going to lose everything that you think you had. Everything. And this kind of concepts, you can talk about them from the mind, or you can talk about them because you have gone through some dark times that have taught you, actually. I experienced that. That's how you learn. When you experience, taught you all this stuff. And that's when you can speak with credibility. Yeah. Because you're not just reading from a book, just saying nice ideas that you put on Instagram. You can put them still on Instagram, but like they can be real because you've gone through that. And so the practice has to help you to live the good and the bad, the highs and the lows.
Yeah. And I love that because that is life as the guru, right? Because you're either going to take the guru's medicine or you're going to resist.
You're going to spit it out.
and resisting reality is you're going to lose 100% of the time. You're just going to suffer more, right? I
have enough problems without having my neck bulge blue with the.
Are you Shiva swallowing poison?
No, thank you.
But it's it's beautiful that way. It is beautiful. And I think also what you're saying is that the practice is here to help us like get in touch with that inner voice, with that inner knowledge, with that inner wisdom. And then like when we can hear it and we can feel it, then we can like learn and grow, and the path is there before us.
Starting with the body, you have to feel yourself in the body. That's very important. And when you approach things very militantly. You stop feeling the body. You are in a different. You're practicing from a different space.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For me, is how you keep the rigor and how you keep the structure and how you keep things being coherent and then alive as well.
Yeah.
As you practice I've been practicing Ashtanga yoga for 13 years. So I think the first decade was apprenticeship. I really kind of like knowing where things are inside. That was the first 10 years. And now I feel way more mature in my practice. And to me, it's a challenge. How you keep it. So you don't actually start indulging too much, or just like how it does not disintegrate, and how it gives you the range of exploration that you need, that you actually to keep growing, because you get stuck.
That's what Eddie would say to us in New York. He said, if you start teaching before you've been practicing 10 years, you have a new student disease. That's what that is. And you need to let that percolate. You need to let that cook before you start, abusing other people.
Abusing. There's an excitement too when it's new, and there's a love for it, which is beautiful, and that's contagious. I think new teachers, fresh teachers are amazing at like bringing students into the practice because they have so much excitement for it. And then, after 10 years, 20 years, you're like, ooh, it's you have like more of a reality of the immensity of the undertaking.
The teacher said once, when people show up in yoga, I say, your head is already in the mouth of the tiger. You don't know.
That's good.
Into it's so true.
Yeah.
But people they don't come to put in the mouth of the tiger. They come to actually come to like feel better.
Yeah. They think they're gonna ride the tiger.
Yeah,
it's like no,
Morka.
You're not gonna ride any tiger. No.
That's true.
Beautiful.
Well, you're really interesting. You're a bit of a slow burn, but actually you're actually like really profoundly present, aren't you? And like you're very much aware of death, and that's fantastic to see. And it's really nice. And it's been I really like Madrid as a city a lot. I wanted to go and study there. I wanted to study painting in Madrid. What's his name? Who's that great Madrid Spanish realist? He's like the
Velázquez?
No, he's long dead.
That's what I said, Velázquez.
He did. There's a great. He did the great portrait of the royal family in the palace. The new one.
We saw that.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna look him up, and then we can edit this out. But just to say, I would love to come back and see more paintings and visit. And I think it would be really nice to see your place. We're not asking for a workshop. Forgive me.
I already going to Madrid.
You're going to Madrid?
To Carmen school.
You're going to Madrid? When are you doing that?
In September.
Oh, I want to go.
No, you have to stay here with the dogs.
Fucking hell. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, we're very excited. At the end of September, I will be in Madrid at your school, and my Yogashala, I think, is that what it's called? The other school? You team up?
We did.
Yeah.
We did stuff together. Otherwise, Ashtanga world, if you just go with the lone wolf mentality, it's very arid.
I think it's really nice, actually, because it's nice to have that community and that support, and rather than like feeling competitive, which often happens when there's different schools in the city, people like are, then this group of students are like, I'm not going to that workshop because it's not at my studio. And people get it's a weird political thing sometimes. So I love that you two are teaming up and building community rather than, feeling competitive.
Well, it's easier for us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. Exactly.
You know Antonio Lopez Garcia?
Oh yeah. And he's very good.
He's the greatest painter alive. I mean, there's no question. There's him and there's everyone else. They're all
The one that paints the toilets.
Yes.
Like photographs.
That's his mid-career stuff. His new stuff is all like the Madrid horizons, the skylines. Yeah. He'll take 15 years on a painting and he'll only work on it. Like this painting I'm making the first week of September, I only work on it in the first week of September so the light is the same. So he brings that canvas out every September to work on it. And so his paintings takes 15 years to make, 20 years.
Very organized.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Wow.
He's just a living treasure. So I would like to come and see more of them.
Maybe next time.
Oh, next time, I guess.
You're not coming?
I guess I'm not coming. Is what it sounds like. I can only hint so much. And then I'm, you got to take your no and go home.
Maybe if people write in and comment that they want you to come to Spain,
if we could get another 100 people to sign up for this workshop, we could afford to bring Russell to the workshop. Yeah. So let's go with that.
Yeah, let's go with it.
If all the Swedes would come down who are listening, if you would come to Spain in September where it's very warm, then we could all afford to bring Rusty.
Yeah.
I could go look at those paintings again. Those are very nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Whether Russell comes or not is yet to be determined by registration.
Yeah, me too. And I'm actually Harmony. I'm very excited to work with women, practice with women. Yeah. When you get to a certain point in practice, you need to work with someone with a body like yours.
She's quite bossy. I mean, honestly.
She's practiced with me before.
Bossy. She's a bossy boss.
I teach life.
She's always like standing on your fingers and spreading them out when you're in downward dog. It's like, would you leave my hands alone, please?
I'm much more gentle now.
No.
Every year I like
getting more and more gentle.
More gentle.
I'll let you know, Russell, how that goes on the downward dog.
Fantastico.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It was so wonderful to have you.
To you. It was a pleasure.
And we'll see you soon. Yeah, a couple of months.
She will see you soon.
Well, maybe you will as well. Be open to life.
Depends on the sign-ups.
We'll put the link in the show notes and then people can sign up and register.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Thanks for listening to this episode of Finding Harmony. With me, your host, Harmony Slater. You can find out more information on my website, harmonyslater.com. And I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Standing in eternity's shadow, watching the breaking waves. There's a hard wind and the soil is dry.